This is a strange story about an encounter with possibly a creature or spirit from when I was about 5 years old. At that time, my older sister and I slept in bunk beds, and every now and then we would swap beds. So on this night, I was on the top bunk, while my sister was on the bottom bunk. It was the middle of the night, and something woke me up. Half asleep, I peered over the side of my bed. At first there was nothing, but then I heard some rustling coming from the closet across from me. This sound had also woken up my sister, and therefore we both witnessed what happened next. A small black bird shot from my closet and darted under the beds. Freaked out, I jerked back into bed, and in a quiet whisper, I asked my sister if she saw what I did. She confirmed that she had seen the bird too. It was so strange that, as any kid would, we agreed to call out for Mum. After a short time, my mum came into our room asking what was wrong. When we explained what had just occurred, she bent down and searched under the bunk beds. After looking everywhere, my mum stood up with a confused look and told us that there was nothing there. Somehow the bird had just vanished. My sister and I were shocked. It had to be there. Both of us saw it. There was nowhere for it to go. The windows were closed and there were no holes under there for it to escape. My mum told us it must have been a dream and to go back to bed. We did as we were told, and I forgot about it for years until I was talking with my mum and sister, and they told me that they both remember that night and the vanishing black bird. I've had many experiences with spirits. This is one of them. This happened a long time ago, when I was still in school. One day while I was in class, I had to go to the bathroom. When I walked into the bathroom, I could tell no one was in there because all the stall doors were closed. I went into the stall at the very end. While I was doing my business, I heard crying. I was super confused at first because I thought no one was in there. I looked under the stalls, which I know is kind of creepy, when I saw someone's feet a few stalls down from mine. They weren't wearing any shoes and their skin was more like a blue color. Then I saw them walking out of the stall, continuing to cry, even though I wasn't finished what I was doing. I quickly pulled up my pants and walked out of the stall, mostly because I was scared, but also because I wanted to make sure that person was okay. When I got out of the stall, no one was there. I know no one left or came in because the door to the bathroom is very squeaky and loud. I was so scared that I couldn't even go back into the stall to finish. I quickly washed my hands and left. In my school there is a locker that has a memorial on it of someone who died. To this day I still wonder if that was the same person I saw in the bathroom or someone else. I still wonder what that spirit was crying about, and genuinely hope that they are okay and have moved on. This was on my mind today, and just had a feeling I might get some additional insight from the Reddit community. Something was in those woods, and whatever it was not human. I've always had a legit fear of the woods near my childhood home, up until I moved out at 18. Something was in those trees. Something looked into my windows and doors from the dark beyond my sight. The darkness beyond the glass always seemed otherworldly, and like the dark, hid creatures beyond fear and imagination. Every time I was up late, I would always close every door and window on the ground floor. I wanted every conceivable barrier to my sight up. I am not normally a fearful person, but something outside in those woods made my blood run cold as ice. I was always terrified that one night I would see something inhuman leering at me, hungry, and knowing I was vulnerable. There were times I heard whispers, voices that came from the darkness that could not possibly be there. Whatever was making those noises knew I was listening. Whatever it was could not see me, but it knew I was there. I would hear just enough to know it was a human voice, but could never make out words. It wasn't a neighbor or radio or anything. I know those sounds, and this wasn't it. Something was out there on some of those nights. Something stalked those woods behind my house. I do not know what it was. This is my first post here, but I felt I needed to share, lest I go crazy. I've been a paranormal/witchery follower for my entire life. It's interesting, and has led to quite a few minor experiences. My mother, who has had many more experiences and has more knowledge than me, always warned me not to mess with things. And until now, I really hadn't. As a short background, I recently moved into my own apartment and have been super stressed due to uni life. Looking for a way to de-stress, I was scrolling through TikTok and found a video about manifesting and putting yourself into a trance-like state and willing a connection. It honestly seemed like a good idea at the time. I did it and nothing happened, but I felt calmer, so I continued for a few weeks. A lot of the time nothing specific in mind, just putting myself into a trance and reaching out. One time, I felt a sudden sharp pain in my wrist that snapped me out of it immediately. No outside injuries, but it continued to hurt throughout the day. After that, things started getting weird. Phantom pains throughout the day. My plants suddenly began to flourish, then die, especially all my sage. Strange noises, like hearing my cat, despite him not living with me, or randomly smelling smoke, often coupled with the noises. But weirdest or worst is when I go to bed. As I begin to drift into that place between sleep and wakefulness, I become acutely aware of a feeling of someone sitting at the end of my bed, and I swear I can almost see a silhouette. I will get a burning feeling in my legs, like something hot is being held against them. Sometimes it's widespread across my whole calf, or it's just smaller pricks around my knees. Once I even felt like something wrapped around my ankle and pulled along with the sound of laughter. Being alone, this is something that is actually starting to creep me out, and I don't know if I'm just connecting weird separate occurrences. Either way, that's my current story. I don't know if this was a ghost or not, but I remember when I was about 10 watching some random video thing called Rap Rat, and at the end of the video, it said you can't say his name, or he'll haunt you. I just had to be cocky and say its name, like multiple times, but after that nothing happened until the night. I was in bed and needed to go to the toilet, so I got up and went and did the usual. But while I was on the toilet, I heard scratching at the wooden door, and that freaked me out. As soon as I finished, I checked, and nothing was there, and all of our cats were away in the garage, with the door to it shut. I ran into my bedroom and stayed up for a little bit, but fell asleep quickly. But it got worse as time went on. The next night I was in my room when I heard the same scratching at the door, and again nothing was there. And this would continue for ages. Even if I left my door open, I would hear scratching above me in the attic. And during this time I found massive black scratch marks on my door, the wallpaper, and the skirting board nearby. I don't know what I encountered, but that put the fear of God into me and got me praying every morning for Jesus and God to protect me and to make it stop. But that didn't do anything. Right now I'm 16 years old in a different house that our insurance is renting for us. It's beautiful. Our house is under renovation due to a water leak that happened during COVID, so I can't provide images of the black scratches. But if while I'm at the house visiting for a bit, I'll try and get a picture of the marks. In my life, I've only had a couple of strange experiences, so I thought I'd write one down and let you guys read it. The incident occurred when I was around 3 years old. As with being that young, I don't remember much from that time, except for one vivid memory. My family had not long ago moved into a rental property in the suburbs of Melbourne. It was a nice enough house, small but cozy, perfect for a young family. It began on a day during winter when darkness came early, wherein I was sitting on the couch in the living room, watching a kids show that I can't remember. I was kinda zoning out when the eerie feeling of being watched flowed over me. A tingle at the back of my neck that made me stiffen and look around in confusion. Everything was normal. I heard my parents cooking dinner in the kitchen, and my older sister was playing on the ground nearby. I physically felt eyes boring into the back of my head, so following my instincts, I turned and looked out the window. The first thing I noticed was that the curtains were open, even though it was pitch black outside, and my mum always closed them when the sun went down. Focusing on what's beyond the glass, my eyes searched the whole darkened front yard. A shiver ran down my spine, because somehow I knew there was something out there. I froze, and fear shot through to my very core when the blackness moved, and I saw a shape amid the shadows. There was a tall, dark figure lurking under the large tree that stood in the middle of the lawn. That thing looked humanoid, but I couldn't see any detail. It was just jet black, like my eyes couldn't quite focus on it when I looked right at it. I couldn't see its face, but somehow I knew it was looking right at me. I had the feeling that whatever this was, it didn't have good intentions. All I remember is thinking, bad, when I saw it. What was even stranger was that the pale glow from the streetlights left the yard in shadow, but the dark figure cast no shadow. It felt like forever, but was probably only a few minutes that I stood terrified staring at this thing. My heart was thundering in my chest. I felt like a predator being stalked by its prey. Mercifully, my mum's voice broke through my panic as she called us to dinner. Snapping my eyes away from the shadow, I glanced over my shoulder to where my mum was setting the plates on the table. I sighed in relief at the normalcy. I didn't want to look back, but I just had to know if it was still there. So plucking up my courage, I turned back to the window. My eyes widened in shock, though when I saw the figure, it was gone. Like it was never there. When I saw that it was gone, I did what any 3-year-old would do, shrug it off and eat my dinner. I honestly thought this was a dream until I was chatting with my mum and asked her if there used to be a tree in the front yard of our old house and a grey chair in the lounge room. When she told me there was, I freaked out and told her what I remembered. There were too many similarities to the house, and it was weird that I would remember so much about that incident from being that young, so I figured it had to be a memory. Thank you for listening. If you like what you heard, consider subscribing. And if you have a story you'd like me to narrate, contact me on Twitter or post it in my subreddit, which are in the description below.